Hello, engr1301, fall 2017. I saw, of course, that you all got your exam grades back in the raw scoring when I handed them out, I believe, on Monday. And I really don't know how you all feel about your grades for the most part. But the drop day for the class is Tuesday, and this is, for most of you all, your first engineering class at all. And so I wanted to help you all have some context for how you should look at your exam grade as it currently is. So I produced this report that I'm going to go through just a little bit on this video, but you'll also be able to see the report to read for yourself on WT Class. And what I'm wanting you to do with this report is to gauge your performance on all aspects of the exam. You'll be able to use this report to look at how you did on the conceptual versus the quantitative part and the overall part. If you want more detail than that, you'll just have to look at your exam for individualized questions or sections. And you certainly can come talk with me about it. And I'd encourage you to do that if there's anything that you have as far as a question of understanding what do I do about this level of weakness or strength or misunderstanding on a certain section. So it is important, I think, with any type of exam in a college class to look at your overall performance in the class if the instructor provides that. And the reason that's important is because you don't necessarily know how well you really did without looking at the rest of the class. You may have gotten a C, you may not have wanted a C, but if you determine that most of the class got a C, then maybe you're actually doing about as well as everyone in the class. It doesn't mean you're weaker than everyone else. You might have to work on something to get a grade that you want, but it doesn't mean that you're understanding things in a way that's, so much less than the rest of the class, which is, I know it's easy to feel that way. So overall, here's the grade distribution with uncurved grades, and they will be curved as it says here in the report. If you look here about, let's see, only 58% of the class passed with a C or better. So if you didn't pass, especially if you're in the D to high F range, then you're not necessarily that far apart from everyone else. You might not like getting a D or an F, and you probably shouldn't, but it doesn't mean that you're so much below everyone else. You're probably not. The biggest category was this C here, and 33% of the class got in the C average, the C score, and out of everyone that passed, out of the A's, B's, and C's, 57% of all the passing were C's. So over half the people that passed with a C, which means I think everyone has a fair amount to work on. And as well, no one, there are very few of you who just really understood everything super well. So if you feel like there's something you don't understand that well, then you're not alone. There's a lot of the class that's like that. Then under results by section, I created two different histograms that showed out of 40 points what people did on the conceptual portion of the exam, and out of 60 points what people did on the quantitative part. On the conceptual one, most people did, decently well in the 30 points to 40 points range, although this down here, the 28 and lower, is still a good, close to 40% of the class. So some of y'all still have some work to do as far as either taking me seriously about studying conceptual exam portions, or maybe you just don't understand what I'm looking for in terms of how to study the conceptual things. Oh yeah, and I did misspell conceptual right there. But what's a little more interesting is the quantitative part. There's a group of you all that were in this 45 to 60 range. If you're in the 50 to 60 range, then you understood, the significantly, most of the the quantitative items, and you probably just made some little mistakes. There's a lot of you on this 45 to 50, so there's probably a little piece of something major you struggled with. And then if you're 40 and less, there's something major that you probably didn't understand, like a particular problem that really stumped you, or a particular section that you just went through too fast or something. And there's a lot of people in this 40 and less range. So there's 45% here plus another 10%. About 60% of you were in the 40% or less. or 40 points or less out of the 60 points. So a lot of people struggled in quantitative, and that's probably where more variation is in the quantitative. So if you're weak on something there, then don't despair. You just need to figure out what it is, and I will help you all do that by going over the exam at length, and you'll be able to see, hopefully, like, aha, I got something that that you showed on the exam solution, and I see what I did wrong, and I know how to address it, and it's not very hard to address. And the last thing I wanted to show you is a scatter plot here of each little dot represents a person. So this person here, they would have got about a 28 points or so on their conceptual and about 18 points on their quantitative. So anything in this lower quadrant means you're pretty weak in both. If you're up here, then you got a relatively low, like in the 20s score here on the conceptual, and pretty high on the quantitative. Meaning, but you're about a 50 on quantitative, but about a 20 on conceptual, which means your conceptual really hurt you and lowered your grade. On this quadrant down here, if someone's got like a 22 or something here in the quantitative and like a 30 or 34 or something in the conceptual, they really understood the conceptual well, but they're weak on a fair amount of the quantitative stuff. And most everybody is in this, just general area over here where you are a little bit, probably some things you are weak in the conceptual and some things you're weak in the quantitative. But, I would encourage each of you to find where you are on this diagram. You'll be able to see, oh, I got 29 and about 26 here on quantitative, and you'll be able to find where you are. So that should provide some context for you to see that some people that did well, they only did well because they did so well in the quantitative, and they didn't treat the conceptual as seriously. And maybe you're strong in the conceptual and you just have some quantitative that you need to work on. Or maybe you're strong in the quantitative and you just need to work on your writing and your ability to explain conceptual concepts better. There's a lot of different ways to look at this. It's not just as simple as I got a bad grade on this exam. So I want you to think well about where you stand within, especially this diagram and these two diagrams, as well as your overall, to decide how are you going to do better on exam 2. And I would say I don't know there's too many of you that really should consider dropping the class. There might be a few if you just didn't turn a lot of things in, or if you're just down here in like the really low, below 50%. There's a few y'all down there that maybe it's worth considering dropping. But if you're going to stay in engineering, I think all of you all in the 50% or higher, you really still could pass the class, especially because I count the exam that you did the worst on, I count it less than the exam you did the best on. So please come talk to me if you got more questions about that. I hope that this video of explanation of the results helped you some.